Today is Friday, September 26th, 2025, and we have two systems to talk about in the tropics tonight. The first system is PTC 9, which stands for Post-Tropical Cyclone, and this will probably be Imelda at some point, even as early as Sunday morning. So PTC 9 is currently just kind of north of the eastern sections of Cuba at this time. There's not really a defined circulation yet, but this is kind of the general location of that low pressure at this point in time. As we go to the east, we can see Major Hurricane Umberto right here, and this is well north of the Lesser Antilles, and there's the cone of that, and Bermuda is currently in the cone, and we'll talk about that more a little bit later. But direct impacts are not expected in Bermuda, but still winds and rain bands could impact Bermuda as we get kind of further into the early part of next week. Now talking about PTC 9, if we take a look at some of our warnings here, and we'll discuss the cone shortly. So we already have tropical storm warnings issued for areas in the Bahamas, as you can see in that blue color right there. As we go farther north in the cone, we also have tropical storm watches in the yellow color issued for parts of the Bahamas as well. We get farther north and we currently do not have any more warnings or watches right now, but there is the rest of the cone. As of the latest update we just got at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So that is once again the cone, and this does not show all the areas that could be impacted by this system. It just shows where this system could potentially go as we get further into the forecast. It has a lot of wiggle room because there's still a lot of uncertainty with many models as to where the system may head. So once again, as of the latest 8 p.m. update tonight, PTC 9 is a 35 mile per hour system and is expected from the National Hurricane Center to transition, or really strengthen, I should say, into a tropical storm by Sunday morning. And as we get further into Sunday, it will be a 50 and maybe even 60 mile per hour tropical storm as it makes its way through the Bahamas. The National Hurricane Center has it strengthening into a low-end Category 1 hurricane, a 75 mile per hour storm by Monday evening. We get into Tuesday evening as well, keeps it at a 75 mile per hour Category 1 hurricane. We get into Wednesday evening, and they want to have it at a high-end tropical storm, a 70 mile per hour tropical storm at that. So that's the latest we have from the National Hurricane Center regarding the cone. Before we begin looking at any weather models, we're going to be looking at this graphic issued by NOAA on PTC 9 regarding the rainfall totals. So the latest update we have goes through September 29th, and they're wanting to put an area into eastern Cuba that could potentially receive over 16 inches of rain in some isolated areas. Then as we get into central and other sections of eastern Cuba, these areas could easily see 8 to 12, 6 to 8, 2 to 4, and even an inch to 2 inches of rain, even into central Cuba. Along into Haiti and the Dominican Republic, areas could see 2 to 4 inches of rain there. A good chunk of the Bahamas could see potentially 6 to 8 and 4 to 6 inches of rain, and some areas seeing isolated 8 inches and higher. So that is a definite concern there with rainfall as we go through the next few days, especially across portions of eastern Cuba. Starting off with the GFS weather model for tonight, we go forward into midday Saturday, and there you can see PTC 9, which will eventually be Tropical Cyclone Imelda. But as we go into tomorrow evening and then early on Sunday, there's our low pressure, and it is expected to be a weak tropical depression by this point. And then as we get into midday Sunday, it is expected to strengthen into a tropical storm. We get it further into Monday, and it has hung around the Bahamas a good bit and dumped probably a good bit of rain by this point into some of these areas. As we go into Monday as well, midday Monday, going to Monday evening, and the GFS weather model, the 18Z run, that is, wants to show this getting right along the southeast coastline Monday evening, and then has it at a strong Category 1 hurricane by this point, gets it right along the coastline, backs it on out, and then Umberto effectively pulls on this system and brings it on out to sea. But still, if this scenario were to unfold, it would dump a good bit of rain into South Carolina, even North Carolina as well. And there would still be a decent chance for some high winds into these areas. So that is the latest 18Z GFS, and this has changed throughout the last few days a good bit as well. We go to the previous runs, and it has been showing a scenario of eventually will be Imelda, but it does show PTC 9 kind of making a landfall into the southeast and moving further inland. And then the most recent run, the 18Z, has once again showed that curving, not really curving, but getting pulled on by Umberto and putting it out to sea, but still stalling it right here in this area. And so there's been a few other models that have shown this as well before the GFS, and we'll talk about that as well. We take a look at the latest 12Z European run as well. There is PTC 9, and then it strengthens into a tropical depression, maybe a tropical storm by Sunday, hangs around the Bahamas a good bit, and dumps a lot of rain in those areas. Gets it into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening, Monday night, Tuesday morning, and it gets it right along the southeast coastline as well. It gets it, installs it, same thing as the GFS is now showing, and then it kind of tries to move a little bit farther eastward out into the Atlantic. Not my bunch, but Umberto tries to pull on it. And as we get further into Thursday and Friday, it hangs around this area and continues to dump rain with a scenario like this. And we'll get a little bit closer here so y'all can see this better. And we go into Thursday and get into Friday, and this wants to hang it around this area, which we do not want this to happen either, because this would dump a lot of rain into the southeast, especially into South Carolina. So that's the latest European model. We look at the European AI model as well. This is the 18Z run. There is PTC 9, which will turn into Imelda. And as we go into Monday morning, Monday afternoon, evening, there's Umberto at the far eastern part of the zone here. We can see this area, and it wants to get it pretty close and impact parts of Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, potentially even North Carolina with some of the rain, but still it tries to push it on out to sea because it is a little bit slower, and Umberto gets out ahead just slightly and pulls it on out. But then it tries to make another turn because Umberto is far away enough for it not to really impact it much anymore, and then it gets it pretty close and really into the Outer Banks, and then moves it on up into the Mid-Atlantic. This is also a pretty bad scenario as well, which would dump a good bit of rain into the southeast and potentially the Mid-Atlantic as well. We look at the Canadian model as well, and we look at the icon in just a moment. We're going to speed this up a little bit more. We go into Monday, go into Tuesday as a tropical storm, a hurricane, and actually yanks it out pretty quickly. But then it goes right back and makes it into the southeast coastline, into North Carolina, and then eventually moves out on up. So most of these models earlier today and previous days did show it moving on out to sea and not making that turn back. And now is the first day we've actually seen a few models show that turn back potentially. So if we take a look finally at the icon model as well, we go into this is the 18Z run today, go into tomorrow on Sunday. It is right there in the Bahamas. Get that going further, hangs around there, doesn't strengthen too much, and then it starts to strengthen a good bit as well, and then it finally gets yanked on out by Umberto and does not have as much as an effect on the southeast and mid-Atlantic as the other models would. So that is the latest we have with some of the global models. And now we'll take a look back out at the Western Atlantic. And so we'll kind of discuss this a little bit more. And we'll use the GFS for example with this, and we'll go to our 500 millibar vorticity. And so the reason we have such a complex setup is because obviously Umberto is right here. Here's our energy for our PTC9 eventually will be Imelda. And as we go into Saturday evening, this is a pretty good frame. We have this trough situated into the southern Appalachians. And so this wants to essentially guide the system up towards this way into the southeast. But since Umberto is out here, this kind of pulls on this system and tugs at it. And so the main question we have over the next few days, really this weekend as a whole, is how quickly is this system able to move north? The quicker it's able to move north, and if it's able to get ahead of the system, the chance of it making a landfall and not stalling as much in the southeast would be higher. But still, the question comes in as is this system going to still stall as we get into early next week, even with Umberto not as close? So that's our main questions with this. Is it going to make a landfall? If it does, will it come back out to the Atlantic here and then curve back again? Will it get yanked out completely and not make a landfall? Or will it make a landfall only just the first time, or one time I should say, and not come back out to sea? So we have a couple different scenarios that will play out here. The best scenario at this time would be it getting yanked out to sea and not affecting the southeast, and really not affecting the Bahamas as much because it doesn't hang over those islands. So we see this trough begin to weaken on the GFS weather model as we get further into the weekend, but still it wants to pull it up into the area. But Umberto is able to pretty much stay pretty level with it for the most part, and that would affect Imelda a little bit more by this point, and that will try to yank it on out, but still it wants to stall there and affect the southeast. So if we take a run like the morning run, I believe is probably a better example. Yes, this is a better example. So if this system is able to get farther north than Umberto, it's going to be able to push into the southeast and not be affected as much by Umberto, but still it will be a pretty slow moving system. And this is once again the morning run. We'll go to the 060 run as well, and that shows another scenario where Imelda is able to move to the north a little bit quicker than Umberto, and once again that will get it into the southeast. But if we get a run like the 18Z run where it's pretty much at the same latitude as Umberto, it is going to be affected by it a little bit more, causing a stall almost like this scenario plays out here, and that would once again still be bad news for the southeast. Finally, taking a look at Umberto and some of the global models. So we'll take a look at the European weather model first, and we'll back this up a little more. And as we go into Sunday and then into Monday, this is going to continue to move kind of westward, and then it's finally going to make kind of that turn to the northeast. But still, as we go into Tuesday evening and into Wednesday morning, this is going to be very close to Bermuda, and this will probably impact Bermuda with some of the winds off the system and the rain bands as well. And obviously we have future tropical cyclone Imelda over here in the southeast, and it gets awfully close to Bermuda on the European weather model. The GFS weather model as well has it pretty close, but just farther north, a little bit farther north by Wednesday morning, and has it a little bit weaker as well. We look at the European AI model. Shows a pretty similar scenario to the GFS weather model, has it considerably weaker as well, but it once again has a little bit farther west and north of Bermuda as we get into Wednesday. We look finally at the Canadian model, and it has about the same track as the European weather model and gets it still very close to Bermuda, but finally has it moving out by Wednesday afternoon and evening out of the area. Lastly, we'll look at the hurricane models, and first we'll start out with the 18Z HMOD model for PTC 9. We go into tomorrow on Saturday afternoon and evening. We have this area into the Bahamas, dumping rain into some of these areas in the islands. We go into Sunday morning, and the northern sections of the Bahamas could potentially see the strongest part of this storm so far by this point, if this were to play out around a tropical storm. We go into Monday, going to Tuesday, Monday evening, and then into Tuesday morning. The HMOD model wants to show a Category 1-ish hurricane making landfall into the southeast, and then as we go into Wednesday as well, still hangs around. So one of the main concerns we have with this system, as I stated earlier, is it's going to potentially be a slow moving system with Umberto affecting it, because it may tend to, like I said earlier, almost want to stall out, and that would not be a good scenario to play out at all. So if we look at getting back to the models here, we'll look at the HF's-A model as well. This is almost fully out, the run is. So this is the latest 18Z run that we have. Gets it into a tropical storm maybe by midday Sunday evening. Gets it into a Category 1, maybe Category 2 hurricane, and then gets it into Georgia, Georgia, South Carolina, and then it once again kind of stalls it around right off the coast of the southeast. So once again, another scenario with a stall there. We'll look at the HF's-B model and the HWRF model in just a moment as well. So we'll look at the HF's-B model here, and it does the same thing. Gets it a little bit stronger in the Bahamas a little bit earlier, and then gets it into a tropical storm, Category 1 hurricane, maybe Category 2, gets it into South Carolina, Georgia, and then kind of stalls it around there, or really not stalls it, but it is a slow moving system by this point. So now if we look at finally we'll look at the HWRF model, and it is not fully out right now. So we'll look at it the best we can. We go into tomorrow on Saturday. You can see all that rain there into Cuba, the Bahamas. Go into Sunday, gets it into a tropical storm, then into a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane, and then wants to get it right here, and that's as far as the run goes, and kind of gets it stalled around just off the coast of South Carolina. So once again, another scenario with a stall here of this system. So that's really all we have tonight for the models, and this is a very complex scenario we have, and so we'll continue to watch this and see how the models handle this, and I think we'll have a lot better idea of what will happen. Really by Sunday, I think we'll have a good idea of what will happen as far as the southeast, even the mid-Atlantic being under the gun. But I do hope y'all continue to stay safe if you are being impacted by PTC 9 or are going to be impacted by PTC 9 Imelda in the near future. But once again, that'll be it for today's update. I appreciate all of y'all watching, and I hope y'all have a great night.